So we've had a couple of little bits of information about some NPCs, and we've got some more. So we've got a little bit of a blog to go for. So it's preview of Your Neighbours. Farming Simulator 25 features a small ensemble of characters to talk to, NPCs. If you decide to talk to them, let's learn more about them and how they work. So we've got adding characters and guidance. So they wanted to make the town a little bit more lively, so you can meet a handful of virtual people brought to life by real voice actors. Each character has their own personality and area of expertise. Because we were able to create the characters without drawing developer resources from other game features, we've added them as a side bonus. So to provide especially new virtual farmers some touching points in the form of guidance, they offer some advice and help for the farming basics. If you want to know more about them, you can just casually walk up to them and see what spontaneously comes to their mind. Sometimes they may ask what you think. They may also need a helping hand and offer you some contract when there's something to be done in the neighbourhood. Right, so a little bit of side missions on the go. So although the game has never been about story mode or anything like that, well, we've now got sort of side quests. Oh, that's going to be interesting. So first up, we've got a character that we've already seen in a previous post. We've got Grandpa Walter. So it says, as a traditional in farming, the farm is passed down from generation to generation. In this case, however, Grandpa Walter isn't passing the farm on to his son, who would normally be next in line, but he wanted to explore another life away from the countryside. Walter will share some of his experiences and tell you more about the history of the family farm and send you to his trusted old friend and helper if you require assistance from modern agriculture. So it says, I'm doing this for a while now. Despite all the modernisation, there are still farmers sitting on tractors, right? My own grandfather, yes, and I had one too. He was old school, and I mean that in actual definition. He did everything on horseback, ploughing, sowing, getting to town and delivering his produce to the market, as did most of the others. Horses were the backbone of it all. Back then, a significant portion of his farm was about horse breeding and selling strong, healthy mares and stallions to other farmers. Then tractors became a thing. Slowly at first, then more and more horses were retired from ploughing duty. So you're going to get from Grandpa Walter old school experiences, that sort of thing. So, whilst technology does move things on, you do need a little bit of experience on the go with that, which is ace. Now, I'd imagine that somebody he's going to send you to is going to be the next character, Helper Ben. Fair enough, with his traditional flat cap. Oh, farmers in the UK love a flat cap. So it says, having been the trusted friend of Walter's for more than 30 years, Ben can tell beginners more about the farming basics, how to sow and harvest crops, operate the machines for the various fields, working steps and more. He's always near at the starting farm. So I'd imagine at the start farm on Riverbend Springs, you're going to have two characters to go and chat to. So it's going to be Grandpa Walter and old Helper Ben. So he says, well, since your grandfather slowed down, he didn't really bother with the latest machines and did a lot of stuff in an old school kind of way. That's probably why he sent you to me. I'm an avid reader of all those agriculture machines, old but still learning. If you come to me, I can help you make sure everything grows well in the fields. So that's great. I mean, obviously, if you've been playing the game for a while, you know the general shenanigans that needs to be going on. You need to plough, cultivate and plant your seeds, that sort of thing. But if you're new to the game, maybe you could do with a little bit of help from old Helper Ben. Not bad. Oh, not bad. Oh, now we come to the next one, which in the previous video I deemed Dodgy Dave, because what he was saying, it's not the usual farming shenanigans, we'll call it that. So Neighbour Dave is not a farmer, he tries to be, he's a beginner. He made some mistakes on the way and will warn others not to repeat them. In return, you may tell him that it would be better for him to learn operating a baler instead of opening a hotel with wellness treatments, offering people to sleep on fresh hay, which he heard from others is a thing. Additionally, being from the city, he can explain his perspectives on both city life and living in the country and how he learned to really appreciate farming when he put his hands into the soil himself. To be fair, I mean, if he's on about building a wellness retreat, is he really putting his hands in the soil? Just saying. Right, so he says, sure, there are reasons for that, growing practices so we can feed the population with huge amounts of food, for example. I then learned that produce for mass markets is often harvested before it's fully ripe to withstand transportation and storage, for example. Refrigeration, humidity control, long periods of storage, and so on. That's all of these things can affect the flavour and what you can taste and smell. I never thought about that when I was still your common city boy, but now I know. And I appreciate what I harvest with my own hands even more now. And to be fair, that brings me back to something I've seen ages ago. Nothing to do with farming. It's like with frozen products. You know, Bird's Eye in the UK in particular, it's a frozen brand, all sorts. And their vegetables, it's like from harvest to frozen within like 2 hours just to seal the flavour in. Because obviously the longer it's harvested, you know, it loses the flavour. So, yeah, I can understand where he's going with all that. Fair enough. Now, we go on to the last one, and this is going to be one that has been mentioned briefly before. Katie. Animal farmer Katie. So after travelling the world, Katie came home and took over the animal farm from her family. She is a hands-on person and can explain the basics of livestock farming. If you want to know more about her, she can share some personal stories and anecdotes from her travels. Most of her anecdotes include animals in some way, and some of her stories are just myths she's collected here and there. She's not always serious. Now, does that mean she's going to crack a joke now and again? Fair enough. She says, aren't you a curious one? When I was reading about medieval farming, I was reminded that I really loved our farm and the country life surrounded by nature, animals and livestock. So I changed my major to agricultural science and only minored in history. Can't escape your family's legacy sometimes, huh? When I finished college, I travelled the world and worked on farms to see how they were doing things in other countries and cultures. So we've got a person here that's well travelled. You know, because we've got 2 different maps coming out. Well, obviously, we've got Zelonka that we know about, but then we've got Riverbend Springs and then Hutan Pantai. They're like worlds away in what you would normally do. So how people do things in other countries may come in handy. Indeed. And to finish it off, we've got Lumberjack Noah. So if you're into your forestry, this might be one for you to go and have a little chat to. So Noah is the local forester and lumberjack. His main profession is taking care of the forest, making sure it's handled with respect. If needed, he can explain the forestry basics, but he prefers to talk more about wood carving, even though his well-crafted objects are usually not as practical as he thinks, and you are free to point out flaws in his designs. Since he also likes detective stories, he will pursue anyone who leaves an empty can of fizzy spritz lemonade in the forest. Prepare to get a presentative lesson on how to behave in the woods. To be fair, that sounds like Lumberjack Noah doesn't like a bit of tipping, not fly tip, that's not the word for it. Littering. There you are, that's a better word. He doesn't like people littering. So if you leave an empty can or something, yeah, he might be on your case. Now, we've got a little bit of a comment from him as well. This is what some people think of me and my profession, and it fills me with emotions on the negative side. It is important to handle any forest with care and respect to leave its overall structure intact. I just wanted to make sure that you know that my job is not eliminating all the trees around here. We take what we need, we replace it, and we are respectful of the forest and its inhabitants. It also helps David so he can meditate in one of its clearings. He already got a lesson on littering in the woods, and I'm a bit sceptical, but I believe him when he says that it fell out of his pocket. He stays under surveillance nonetheless. So we've got Dodgy Dave having a little bit of meditation session in the woods, leaving his rubbish, his trash, garbage, whatever, just leaving it around. And old Lumberjack Noah is on his case already. That's ace. I mean, to be fair, I think he's got a good point. You know, you can go and clear all the trees and get all the wood that you like, but once they're cleared, there's no more trees there. So you do need to replace them. You do need to replace them, you know, as soon as you cut them down. Otherwise, you're going to be running out of trees, which is no good for anybody. So that's some more characters coming to the game. And some we've seen before and some we haven't seen. But obviously, they're going to be in the game when it comes out on the 12th of November. And there's a link down below. If you're on PC and fancy picking up a digital version, click on that and it helps the channel out at no extra cost to yourselves. And obviously, if you pre-order, you do get 2 bonuses. You get the Golden New Holland Harvester and you also get the Macdon Pack, which is great. And this is coming out on PC, Mac, Xbox Series X and S and PS5. So if you're on old school, old gen, Xbox One like me or PS4, you are going to need a bit of an upgrade.